We will now begin the panel. This is session F. You've written a show.
For fun.
For fun.
Fun.
You've written a show, and what is next? And I'm super excited that we're ending the day with this amazing panel of people. They all have a lot of really good stuff to share with you about their experiences at the Fringe and in the world of theater. So, are all of you guys first-timers? Is there anybody that's been at Fringe before? You all first-time?
Woo! Nice. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so I'm Stacy Jones-Hill. I'm the communications director of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. But I started out in the world of theater as an actor and a writer, and so I really enjoy this panel because I find it personally inspires me, and I love seeing people telling the stories that they need to tell. So this is super fun. Thank you guys for being here. And if we could just start with you guys introducing yourselves and talking a little bit about what you do and then how you got involved with Fringe, that would be great.
My name is Scott Golden. I'm a producer and actor and director. I'm a company member over at Sacred Fools at the Broadwater. And I've done Fringe for about 5 or 6 years now.
Pretty successfully.
Yeah, big show. Top of Fringe this year.
Yeah, I've had a couple shows take top of Fringe, and we've been nominated in our category 9 times.
Woo!
A few
So,
times.
yeah,
Nice.
a lot of shows.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Annie. I first heard about Fringe because I live around Fringe, and I would see people partying at Fringe Central, and I was like, oh, cool, what's this all about? And they'd be like, theater, and I was like, yeah! I'm down for this! And so once I got laid off from a day job and I was like, had flexible time, I was like, I'm gonna try this Fringe thing. And I did one show, that went well. I did another show, that went well. I remounted it the next Fringe, that went well. And then I did a new show this year. So, 4 Fringes, baby!
Yeah, baby.
I'm Matthew Robinson. I'm a writer, producer, director, and I've done 3 Fringes. I'm probably going to do another Fringe this year. I've pretty much done all ensemble pieces, but last year we got nominated for Best Ensemble, and I'm really proud of that. So, yeah, you can ask me any questions. I have been doing this for a while, and I love it.
Yeah. I'm the other Matthew. Matthew Quinn. I'm a venue manager and producer. I've been involved with Fringe since year 1. I came from San Francisco, where Fringe has been around 26 years. And I just saw the power that Fringe has to affect the community. So I signed up from day 1, and I've been, a crazy Fringe fan ever since.
We've been trying to shake you off.
As hard as they try, I keep coming back. I hung out all day today. So I'm a huge Fringe fan, and congratulations, you guys, for jumping in.
Yeah.
This is great.
Awesome. So you guys all come from very different backgrounds. You're involved in the scene in very different ways.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are going to have probably pretty different answers to a lot of the questions that
great.
we're going to
Good
ask.
mix.
We're going to try to talk just with them for a while, but if you guys have questions, just kind of write them down. We'll try to do a pretty fast question session towards the end. But I kind of just want to start with, what do you do right after, you've written a show? You've got the show.
We're all going to
So tell us everything that happens now. Well, I mean, just immediately after. What are your first steps for success right after you've got the show?
Well, I feel like I'm different than most people in that, so what I've created, at least at the Hollywood Fringe, has been primarily immersive theater. Different levels of immersiveness, but when I create an immersive theater piece, usually if it is design, usually when I create an immersive theater piece, the way that I structure it is I have a full outline of an idea, and then I cast the show, and then once I start working with cast members, I spend time getting to know them as performers and how they interact and how they seem most casual and natural, and then I write the part to fit both my plot and their aesthetic. so that it will feel as natural as possible to audience members, so they can lose themselves in the immersion of the piece, and kind of blur that line between reality and the show. And so that, because my goal with creating immersive theater is to create a nostalgia for something that never really existed. So I usually actually will outline the show first, and then I go into casting, and then after
Because
that,
the actors are like
the actors are so much a part of it and a part of the process. And then but I usually actually book the show and book the dates, because if I'm going to cast people, you need to know when you're doing the show dates before, and what your rehearsal schedule is before you book them in, and then you write the show. So a lot of people finish writing the show first and then figure out where they're going to do as a venue and what they're gonna do. But I actually will find, after I have the outline, I'll usually find the venue and cast the actors before I write the rest of the show. Because also I usually will let venue inform the script as well, for what fits best for that
A lot of
venue.
people have been
And
talking about that.
I
at
write for the venue and for the space, and what the limitations are. I use as strengths in how I create that. So that's just, what it is. Especially with immersive, I feel like venue very much informs the piece before you can write a lot, because you want it to fit with the space you're in, and you want to fully utilize everything from the venue, and you don't want to add in too much to the space.
Which is especially true for an immersive show,
Yeah.
if any of you are thinking of doing immersive.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. Well, once you get done writing that draft and you're like, okay, I'm ready, just understand that is a draft. That is not your set in stone, particularly for the Fringe version. I would still keep workshopping it amongst people you trust and amongst your actors. I'm with Annie. As soon as you write that script, you need to cast as quickly as possible. I start casting for show in June, in March, because by the time you get the people and you find out what the schedule is, and you find out when you can arrange it and have the rehearsals, have the table reads, you're going to be well into April by the time you have like the registration, the Fringe, the cast completely locked down. So you want to have given yourself plenty of time for an actor saying, I can't do it, I realize. I won't be here in June, or suddenly the venue you thought you were going to use doesn't work out. Give yourself time to change things. I had an actor last year, not last Fringe, but last year, quit acting about 2 weeks before a tech rehearsal. He was like, I'm done. I'm moving out of LA. I'm going back to Arizona.
Wow.
It is not that uncommon, you guys. You have to be prepared for these kinds of things at Fringe, I think.
No, really, it can happen. So give yourself as much cushion as humanly possible. There's not going to be an actor in the city who you say, great, you're cast. You're going to have to wait 2 weeks before our first table read. That's going to be like, well, I just don't want to do this play now. That they will be patient with you. And after that, do think about your venue. I think just to kind of echo that, I did a play on this stage, and I had 2 narrators. And originally, I was going to have this whole thing. I wrote the first draft where the narrators come out and they talk, and it was going to cause a lot of problems of having to get the set moved around. This set has a balcony, and so I had the narrator stay on the balcony as kind of the Greek chorus the entire time. So I didn't have to do as many scene changes, and that really helped move the play along. So think about that. Don't obviously limit your art because of, well, this room isn't as big as I thought it was going to be. But just be realistic and understand that you're going to only have about 15 minutes to load in everything, and about 15 minutes to load out. And when it hits that, you have an hour show and it's been an hour, at 61 minutes, those lights are going to turn off. So think about all of that stuff when you finish your draft and you're thinking, I'm moving forward with this.
I mean, small theater in LA is, you're going to do everything. You're going to write the script, and then you're going to, if you have a producing team, that's great. If you're not, you're going to be producing it yourself, and then you're going to find actors, and you're going to find your tech people, and it's one of those things where you just kind of keep building your group. So, I think it's really important to surround yourself with people that you trust and who have the same kind of goals and artistic vision in mind that you do. So if you have your script and you're really excited about that script, start building that core group of people, because I've done Fringe a few times where it's just been me pushing the product, and then it's where it's a big group of us and we're all kind of in mass doing it together, and that's so much easier. So finding that group of people who believe in what you want to do and you're excited, whether it's your actors or your tech team or whatever, I think that's the most thing that you want to kind of get involved with first. Finding a space. The great thing about this Fringe in particular is everyone's so open here. It's not like we're going to Edinburgh and it's spread out all over the place and there's 500 venues and you don't know anybody going in. It's like this is such a great close-knit community that you can kind of get in with. You can talk to other Fringers, you can talk to other venue managers, and they'll help you out find the spot. Complex is really great for that. No? Oh, I thought you were saying that. Complex is really great for that. Broadwater is really great for that. Some of the ones who have been around for a while. Also, the smaller venues. Again, like Annie was saying, find a venue that really suits your product. Find a venue that really helps you out with your show. If you've already written the show, it's going to be easier to kind of come in from where's my list of places to go. Finding the right team is important. Finding your actors is really important. So get that out of the way quickly. And the thing about Fringe is it's such a thing that you have to always be promoting and always be engaged with. Doing panels like this and doing the Fringe events and where we're doing the after hours at bars all throughout the year. It's something you have to kind of keep in mind. You have to keep your presence going. Keep promoting your show and keep promoting your stuff. Not obnoxiously, but just I caught it. Get it out there because one of the hardest things you'll learn in Fringe is there are 380 shows here, and there are 20,000 patrons coming to see those shows. And how can you get those people to come see your shows? Yes, your product is important because you want your art to be great. You want to convey your message, and you want people to see this and be really moved or entertained or whatever by your piece. But at the same time, you have to get the people in the door. So starting working on your promoting materials right away is going to be really important to be successful. So
can I jump in on
Yeah.
that? I was the first year I did Fringe. I went to the very first Drinking About Fringe that I heard of. And I didn't have flyers yet, but by the next one I had flyers, but I had designed my poster, showing everyone it on my phone.
Yeah, I remember
And Stacy was she's I remember how intense you were about your flyer. she was like, I was like, Stacy's like, I was
but I
intimidated
remembered
by
her.
you and your flyer. But because of that, I had met a bunch of people, and we all went to see each other's shows.
Mm-hmm.
And even though my show was not in the main strip, I'd say half of the people that said they would come actually came, even though I wasn't in the main strip. They made that trip over to Highland and Willoughby for me. But the thing that I've talked to a lot of people who do Fringe for the very first time, and they go to some of the Drinking About Fringes, but they don't go to every single one, or they don't actively engage once Fringe starts. They maybe just do the Drinking About Fringes, but once Fringe starts, they don't go to anything other than just the big community events, and don't throughout go to 3 clubs or Plunge or when we used to have Fringe Central, they don't go there. And so then they kind of are all of a sudden why is no one going to my show? I'm you're not meeting new people. You've met a certain number of people and you're not talking about it. And they're some people are oh, it's only the people that have been here every single year that are getting any votes, or for and it's super political. But the first year I did my show, I had a show that not that many people got to see, but I still got not necessarily the voting awards, but I got nominated for just general judge sponsored awards. That's the word I was looking for. And I also had all these people that were coming out and supporting my show and talking about it, and it's not going to happen if you're not actively engaging in the community, because that's the only way that's going to happen. Like, there was someone this year who had like a really weird, trippy, cool show, but like anytime I brought it up, being like, oh, this show was so cool and weird and trippy, and like everyone would be like, oh, I didn't know that was even going on. And so and the people sometimes will be like, oh, it's just like the most commercially viable ones that are getting audiences in, but like it's also kind of, they seem commercially viable because of the fact that they're advertising it as such. Like, if you are doing a parody show, audiences will know what it's based on, and it's a safe bet for them. So if you make your show either feel like a safe bet by doing something that they'll recognize, or if you do a show that's interesting, but you need to like remember, if you're doing a more unique show, to promote it and like get people talking about it and keep the conversation going about your show, because people are seeing 10 to 12 shows a day, and sometimes you can't even remember what you saw in the last 3 hours, like just because you're so overwhelmed by it. So if you keep your presence there and reminding people, then they'll be like, oh yeah, I did really like your show, even though I saw it 3 days ago and I've seen 30 shows since. Like,
I think it's like, and it's not even just about coming and drinking at all these events. We do a lot of drinking events.
Yeah.
But people like to drink at Fringe. But also, like,
You don't have to,
I think it's just FaceTime. Like, I think it's getting your face out there and letting people see you, having genuine conversations with people about what they're trying to do and about what you're trying to do. And if you do that and you're not a jerk, you're probably going to be able to find at least some people here. Like,
also, 100% honestly, some people at Fringe haven't had the greatest shows, but they're super nice people, and you go see their show anyway because you think they're nice and cool, and you want to support them, and you see them get better at doing things or things like that. But like if someone's a nice person, you want to support them. If someone's like, you haven't heard of them and you're deciding between hearing a show that you heard might be good or a show that you know might not be good but has someone that you think is nice in it, you'll go see the one you think so. I mean, that's how I feel, at least.
I love it. Okay, but I'm gonna, you can say something, but I am gonna ask you a question.
Okay, I was just going to tag on some of this. There's one of the great things about Fringe is once you're kind of done with your script, and as Matthew said, that it's just the draft. It's going to change. And now you've got something that you have to talk about and go to these events and meet people. There's some schools of thought, like, should I have readings of this script? And there's some people who feel like scripts get trapped in readings and they never really see the light of day. What's nice about Fringe, and this is something to think about your approach to it, is there are some producers, in fact one that's producing shows right now, who would use Fringe such as a development tool that draft script would change every show of Fringe and would sometimes recast shows for that, which I don't know, being an actor on that team, how that would feel. Like, am I in this week? But it does show you how you're able to utilize Fringe with an audience and this great support to kind of play with that script you have and to use that to really meet the community and as your calling card. The other thing, kind of touching with the venues, seeing venues, I've seen people, actually this space, come in, see it, and like, I'm going to write a script for this venue. I also find people that come in and will alter their script based on the venue they're getting and kind of use that. Fringe registration isn't starting until February 1st, but there is no reason why you can't start looking at venues. And I know immersive community...
Honestly, like, it officially starts February 1st, but a lot of people these days start on their first, second step.
And already, like Jen over at Studio Stage, they start touring. I've started classes and getting people signed up. And a lot of times people are just already know this is the space. But use this time to come, because that can influence.
Also, the closer it gets to Fringe, the more expensive venues get.
Really?
Yeah. Well, like some venues will offer discounts if you.
There's early bird specials.
Early bird specials.
There's some early bird specials.
There's early bird specials.
Gotcha.
But that, and also with community and team, view it as a back and forth of how you can help other people. You help them. There's a lot of, I'll run your box's office, you run mine. Like Scott was saying, building that team is it's so critical for having a successful Fringe, especially if you're a solo show or anything like that. You need a partner. And a lot of them may be sitting right next to you now.
A lot of people meet at these
At
and then
these
like
events.
become creative partners. It's weird. It's like we have an interesting, cool community.
Also,
Yeah.
like box office swap is a great thing because you're gonna need like if your venue doesn't have a box office person, getting someone to do box office for you, especially if you're doing an immersive show and you have 5-hour long box office shifts. Just like fucking find someone else that needs a person to do 5-hour long box office.
I remember the first drinking event that they had this year. I met like people from 3 different shows, and I kept seeing them at each one. And by the time Fringe opened, I knew these people, and so I was promoting their shows. I hadn't even seen them yet. Luckily, like there were 3 shows that were good. But I was promoting their shows, and they were promoting my shows, and they had great attendances. And so did I. And so it's like one of those things where you have to just start building not only your production team, but your word of mouth team, your mob of Fringers.
Your Fringe mob.
Also, on that point too, if you know a lot of other people's shows and a lot of other people know your shows, if someone says, "Oh my God, I love this type of like living room comedy," be like, "This person's doing a living room comedy."
Okay, Matt, I have a question
All right,
for you.
question.
I want to know what's the secret to success?
There goes that book.
I mostly mean to ask like what shows do you like? Are there any common things that you see from successful shows? You've seen a lot of shows at the Fringe. What do you think makes a successful show? If you have to talk about it.
You know, it's a tough question in some ways because there's so many variables and things that go into it. So it's not really something to be like, all right, guys, here you go. But something that, in a sense that Fringe really shows me, and I appreciate more every year, is the shows that have really rehearsed and practiced and put a lot of work in before and come in hot off the gate. Like preview week, you'll hear about this. It's the week before Fringe. It's called preview, but it's open to press. And it is really your buzz starting show. Most people do one, and it just gets that word out.
Like what does a show do to be? I mean, and you guys can chime in here as well.
Right.
To like anything that you think successful shows generally have, or that shows that really don't do well have in common as well.
I finished my thought before I kind of spaced off
Sure.
there. The ones that came in that first week and really hit their stride, and you're not going like, oh, they'll get better next run. Like, oh, they're still tightening it. That it may, and the show may be wonderful at the end, but the ones that are buzz in the beginning, that are tight, that is really going to like trigger people to talk and see it. Versus, I'll give it a chance. I'll wait to see it near the end of the run.
Yeah.
Also, similarly though, if I wonder, I'm going to ask you a question, Matt. If you feel like you had a hiccup, such as like you had a cast member drop out and you need to recast last minute, do you think that it is a hindrance to have a not as on its leg preview show, or maybe duck out of doing your preview show? Do you think? What do you think would be better for your production in the long run?
I don't know.
I would say duck out.
Yeah.
The Fringe is such a truncated run. You only have certain chances, and if you put on a bad show, that's what people, especially your first couple shows, people are going to hear that, and that's going to be
the only caveat. I agree. Caveat, I would say, is what your goal of the Fringe show.
It depends on what. If this is a workshop show that you're trying to get ready for another run, do whatever you want to do. Make it.
Have fun.
It depends on what your goal of Fringe is. If your goal of Fringe is to develop a piece, then develop the piece. Rewrite it, recast it. Have fun with it. But if your goal is to prepare this piece for a longer run, like we won Top of Fringe this year, we're just finishing up our second run at the Broadwater right now. We have our last show tonight. If you want to come see it, Race of Fantastic Mistakes. It's amazing.
It's
Still think it's
good.
available.
Great show. Great Fringe show.
If you like theater and meta jokes, then you're gonna enjoy it.
Super theater-y show. But yeah, so we were, we didn't know where we were going to go after this, but we were we were ready to go show one. We didn't treat it like a preview, and we were hot, like you were saying, hot and ready to go our first preview, because we knew we wanted to take this somewhere else. And so this was our building an audience, getting the kinks out, really feeling out what we wanted to do as far as where we wanted to move next. So it depends on what the end goal is of your show.
To add to that, I think you have to just be honest with yourselves about what your show's strengths and weaknesses are.
Sure.
And I think it's really important to have a good producer on your team, whether that's yourself, maybe you're too close to it, maybe you wrote the script and you're too close to it, or you're directing it. You need to have that objective person who cares about the show, but will say, this isn't working. The last play I did last year, Blackballed, the first draft I wrote of that script was so bad. My producer partner, who was in the show, came to me and said, "This is one of the worst scripts I've ever read." He's like, "This is awful." Thankfully, it was January. I had plenty of time to course correct, but I had to really work that. And we decided right then, if this script is not ready in March, we're not doing the show. And we'll find something else to do. Once you've made the show and you think, I can make this, it's not going to be perfect. Don't worry about perfection. It's going to get better and better and build as time goes on. But just be honest with yourself and be willing to make sacrifices, make changes, kill your darlings if you have to. My show was a historical play about baseball. So early on, I went to people who were in sports writers. We got a sponsorship with Team Brown Apparel, which is the official licensing for Negro League Baseball merchandise today. We called the Negro League Museum. We tried to find people who we knew were going to be interested in this particular genre. If you're doing a solo show and it's about, we have a lot of solo shows at the Fringe, I believe, that are about personal trauma or family problems. Find people who are going to be interested in that early on. Because they're going to, as they're saying, they're going to talk to other people and it's going to spread. You should be, the first time you have a drink about Fringe or anything, you should be around April, you need to be promoting your play in some fashion or another. It doesn't have to be flyers, it doesn't have to be all this money you have to spend, but there should be something. You should be laying the groundwork for your campaign run, and you should know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. If you have a solo show, you're going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage in terms of people that are going to be able to go out and promote it. I had an ensemble of cast of 5, so I had 6 people essentially who could go out at any time and say, hey, if I couldn't make a drinking about Fringe or an office hours or whatever, they could go, or they could go to another show. But you can get a lot of press without spending a dime. You just need to be present. Kind of what was alluded to by Annie and Scott that I think is also important. If you are not a part of the Los Angeles independent theater community, you need to get in now. When I made my first play 3 years ago, it was my first play I'd ever done, ever. And it was also my first time in the Fringe, and I didn't know that many people. I met the Maddie's musical folks. That was the first people I met. They've become great friends, both in the Fringe and outside of it. But I really didn't know that many people, and I had to really start to get my name around May is when I really started going to see people's shows. And so people came towards the end of my show's run, but that was after I had gone and seen about 20 some odd shows in the Fringe. But if you do it now, you don't have to go to a ton, but if you just start going to shows that you know people who are going to be in the Fringe, this is just me, I can't speak for everyone, but I value loyalty above, you can tell me the greatest pitch in the middle of June about your show, but if I met someone in April who's already come to my show, I'm going to go to their show. And I think it's important for people to try to think about that. If someone went out of their way in their busy schedule to come see your Fringe show, try to either you go or someone associated with your show who will shake that person's hand after the performance and say, hey, I represent such and such play, really great job, or whatever. Thanks for the invite. Really had a good time. That's gold in the Hollywood Fringe.
The biggest compliment is seeing somebody's show.
Yeah.
It really is. That's the glue. That's the love.
Yeah.
I wanna kind of steer towards talking a little bit about money and how you guys deal with money a little bit, because that is something that you want to start thinking about pretty early on. But I do want to also say, just kind of as an add-on to what they were saying, be honest also with your audience about the thing that you're presenting.
Yeah.
Because there will sometimes be very clearly workshop productions that are billing themselves as like the greatest show you've ever seen. Like, you know, and you just need to be honest with people, because then their expectations are met, and they can come in and present you with their opinions and their open mind and support.
Because people will talk. The word of mouth, if something's not what it says it is or longer than it should be, people will
But
talk.
people want to support too.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah, I don't, yeah, of course.
I want to emphasize that piece too, because we are talking about like some highly polished theater about you know, making it perfect, and this is all of our struggle. But like you know, Fringe is a great place to take risks and to try things as well. And so bring it how you got it, and we want to help you, support you, and help make you better for the next time. It's kind of our goal. And I think as a community, that's kind of how we all feel. So I want to talk a little bit about how you guys deal with money for your shows, because I know people do it really differently. And Matt, maybe you can talk a little bit about it from your perspective. But maybe Scott, you want to start with how you guys do things with the money? Do you pay for it all yourself?
Yeah.
Credit cards?
Do commercials. Yeah, I mean, usually Fringe comes out of my pocket. I rarely have a backer, but that is important, because you have to start with a budget of what you can feasibly spend and who's supporting you, whether it's yourself or whether it's someone else. And, you know, be really meticulous about building budgets. If you've done small theater before, if you've run a small business or something like that, those things are critical for pre-production. Like, you have to be able to understand what your boundaries are, how much you can, and pay your actors.
Yeah.
Make that part of your budget. Pay your team. I know this is Fringe, and I know we're working
less than minimum wage. If it's like at least like 3/4 of minimum wage,
Just something.
Just something.
Just something. Like, and
Gesture.
no one's ever going to get rich at Fringe.
But
What are you talking about?
I know I have gotten rich.
No, that's
at
right.
Fringe. Unless you just keep selling people socks.
people also like the emotional attitude of like your actors if you're paying them versus if you're not. Like, if you're paying them, then they're more likely going to listen to you when you're like, hey, the venue owner asked you not to hang out here. And if you're not paying them, they'll be like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang out where the hell I want to hang out between shows.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm just saying.
So yeah, I mean, you know, when you're planning that budget, you just need to think about what you want to spend. Whether it's, you know, I'm going to try to do this with a venue for 5 shows for a couple grand, or I'm going to try to do 9 shows with a huge cast and a big budget for 8,000 or 9,000. Or, you know, I know there's a show last year or 2 years ago that spent like 25 grand on their show. Like
60,000.
is that
$60,000.
$60,000 on a Fringe show.
Yes.
That hurts me. So yeah, again, that's something you really got to think
is
about.
not common.
What your art is worth. Some worth more than others. What was I doing? What was I saying?
You were
Talking
great.
about money.
It was great, Scott.
So yeah, so come up with a plan. You know, start building your budget. You know, we start budgeting in February for the show, and we figure out what we need to raise. I do foot the bill for usually my shows, but I also, and this is something I started doing about 3 years ago, I do a GoFundMe page starting in February. And it's not a GoFundMe page where I'm just trying to raise money. It's a GoFundMe page where I'm trying to sell tickets. I start selling tickets in February for a show that actually starts selling tickets in May. So you can buy a ticket for $10 by being you know, and they're going to get that ticket. It's not like I'm not trying to raise money. All I'm doing is just pre-selling tickets.
Right. As a
And so-
fundraiser.
Yeah, and so last couple of years I've raised about $1,000 before we
That's
even
great.
start selling tickets for Fringe. And you know what I'll do, and Fringe still, like, majority of my tickets come from Fringe, but at least I get that you know, I at least can get things going in order to start raising money, and people have already got their tickets. You know, if I sell 300 tickets before tickets even go on sale, I'm so much farther ahead of the game than everybody else. So that's one way you can start raising money, get it going. It doesn't have to be a rich uncle that has it. If you start engaging people early, now they're talking about your show in March as opposed to when you're opening in June. So
I also kind of do that, but not exactly. I am crazy, and I do about 4 to 5 original productions a year, fully funded out of my own pocket. And so I have a Patreon, and you don't pre-order tickets, but you pay to a certain amount to be able to buy tickets pre-sale before anyone else, because my shows tend to have I do such intimate shows with smaller audience sizes. Like, my shows usually have anywhere from 1 audience member at a time to 10 audience members at a time, so I can usually only fit about 100 people across my entire run of a show, if that even. And so if people appreciate the artwork and know that I'm doing a certain quality, they pay that much in a monthly subscription fee, meaning that as soon as I have any show go on sale, they get access to tickets before anyone else. So I make about $130 a month just doing that, which is good for me to have that, because on most of my shows I lose money, but having that as like just a little padding so I don't feel as stressed about the fact that I'm paying $300 in insurance for every single show, then like that makes me feel a little bit more secure that I'm at least covering my insurance, or I'm at least covering like paying for a box office person or something like that.
Well, it helps. I mean, I think every little bit helps.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, like, and also at one point I was making a lot more money off of that because someone was like donating $250 a month to that, and then after 6 months they're like, you know what, it's just not financially secure for me to keep donating $250 to you a month. And I'm like, I understand that. Yeah.
Well, for me, like, everything comes out of pocket. About 75% of the budget comes out of my own personal income that I just saved up over the year getting ready for Fringe. I time particular payments around my pay period schedule and what I'll know I have to pay for that month. So I really, in January, I sit down and I look ahead. It's like, okay, what do I know I'm paying for, like, just my own personal life between now and July? What's going to be a part of that's going to be Fringe? What possibly do I need that in case some unexpected expense comes out? True story. Signed my contract to do a play here in the complex. The first year I did Fringe, I'm driving away from the contract signing and my car breaks down. Completely bust. It was going to cost $1,500 to repair it. I ended up having to buy just another car and basically selling speakers and a bunch of stuff out of my apartment to recoup the loss. So keep in mind, however expensive you think it's going to be, add a couple $100s to it. If you think it's going to cost you about $150 for postcards, it's actually going to cost you about $250. If something ends up less than that, great, but you budgeted yourself for that amount of money, and now you have extra money, so great. And there's probably going to be something that's going to end up costing even more than what you thought it was.
Also, budget for like half the ticket sales you think you're gonna sell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or, I mean, a lot of you are first-time Fringers. Start talking to producers of Fringe, like people who have done shows before. Pick their brains, especially at these meetings that we all do. You know, the drinking around. Find a producer and say, hey man, what's your sell-through rate? What's your ticket price? You know, how many? Just find out what you need to do to break down your show. My spreadsheets start in January. Like, I know exactly what I'm going to be. Within a couple $100, exactly how much it's going to cost and how much. But I've done this for 6 years now, so I can look back on each year and be like, oh, this was my budget here. This is what we made. And this is regardless of the product, I kind of know what to expect at Fringe. But going into it, I had no clue. I was just like, I don't know, we'll sell 100 tickets a night and for $20 a piece, and I'll make $1 million.
That also reminds me, my first year at Fringe, I was like, I'm doing this for like a small budget, but I want anyone who wants to come see my show to come see my show. And I made half of the. I made like half of my tickets. Pay what you can, and I could only fit 8 audience members per show. And I had one show where a cast was like, "Can we just like our whole 8-person cast come see your show?" And I said, "Sure." And they paid $5 for all 8 of them to come. And like, you know, and like doing stuff like that is the difference between my paying my actors and not paying my actors. And I just had to, after that point, be like, you know, if you can't afford it, you talk to me, but otherwise pay my ticket price.
So this is something that's going to be very important during the Fringe. One, yes, echoing what they're saying, think about your budget with how many seats you have to fill to make that up. If you're going to have a show in this room, there's about 55 seats in here. So you need to figure out, am I going to make that every night? Am I not going to make that? What's realistic? I think half is a very good measure of like where you should go, because all the last 3 plays that I've done here at the Fringe have all made a true profit, which means they made their money back and then doubled at least what it costs to put the show on. Woo! So what you need to do to make that happen is you need to make sure that if I completely bomb a show, I will still break even. I make my previews, pay what you can, because that's where I want this to be full. Last year we had a sold out house for preview. It was really great buzz. I think we sold out every show except for one, including our extension. Because we sold out that preview, we made almost no money on that preview because everyone was coming in for $2, $3, $5. But we made so much on the other shows, which were, we had, of course, discounts, and we made stuff work. We did comp swaps, obviously. But think about that in the long run. You're not trying to get rich. You're not going to get rich. It's not possible at the Fringe, unfortunately. But be reasonable. What I did with my actors, which helped them promote the play and really get excited about it, was, first of all, something on your budget line. I think you need to have food at all your rehearsals. Your actors are doing this basically for free. Please make sure they're well fed. I cannot tell you how many plays I go to and they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't feed them." I was like, "Oh, well, you're paying them?" No. And then they wonder why their actors don't know their lines and are cranky and are not coming to events. Please try to do at least 1 of the 2. I set up the rule, you don't have to do this, but I give them a certain percentage. All the actors get a certain percentage of the final ticket sales.
A lot of people do that.
It's a good motivator.
Yeah.
It really is. So just think about that as you're
It helps with marketing and stuff too. People are saying,
And that's what I was doing the year, the pay what you can. So after that, I was like, literally, like, I just try and guarantee like at least $50 a show.
Sure,
what I
cheese.
do.
So I want to open it up to questions pretty soon, but before I do, I want to ask you guys to share maybe a concise piece of wisdom for a first-time Fringer.
Oh, actually, no, that's good, because I was going to make a comment on this. I was going to jump in, kind of related
So any
to
like
this.
last thing that you want to say, like
Well, I'm going to say, I don't know if it's the last thing, and I'll be around for doing things, but
you'll never.
I'll make it the last thing for me
make it the
now.
last thing.
I kind of reiterating what we were talking about earlier about after you wrote the piece in relationship to budget. A lot of it is, what is your goal of Fringe? So if it is just to get it up there and you're not worried about press, don't pay to get press done, and don't do that. Don't maybe get an ad if you're not really looking for butts and seats, but more just kind of like as a development. You may spend more. There are several companies that use the Fringe as a great, here we are, Hollywood. We're doing 7 shows. We're going to spend a lot of money to get everybody to know who we are. Maybe that's something you are spending a little more money on. I actually, since my last time, I'm going to put my plug. I actually do teach a class on how to produce a Fringe show, and I go through kind of the process and give you a spreadsheet. And one of the things at the end, because as most of these guys are saying, it's difficult to make that money. At the end, when you look at your spreadsheet, and pass through, as Scott mentioned, is how many people actually come to your show. And you look at it and you keep the pass through a little low, and you're like, well, I'm going to lose, $500, $1,000. My first thought is maybe look at doing a Kickstarter for that amount. Not for the whole show, but for that amount you think you're going to lose. Much more, $1,000. right? I've also heard from people, and any thoughts I'd love to hear, that the Kickstarter should only be a 2-week run, not 60 days. Like, I always thought it was like, I want it out there forever. You actually just kind of want it out there for 2 weeks because it peaks at the beginning and it peaks at the end, and halfway through you kind of offer an incentive to do that. So if you can get that Kickstarter early, before you have to start writing checks for people, because sometimes people start those too late, you want it early. And then the other thing is look at that number at the end of the budget, and if it's only like $500 only, that's 500 is a lot. If it's 500, look at it as, was it worth it for me to put on a show, to meet all these people, maybe get a review or two, maybe get an award or two. A lot of people spend $500 just on getting the resume photo. So artistically, if you lose a little money but you come up with a community, I view it that's money well spent. So go in there, think about what your goal is, and be open to the community because it's here. So that was
Excellent gem.
I guess mine would be, the only expectation you should have is that you're going to have fun.
Yeah.
Don't put so much pressure, particularly for your first show. Just go out here, try your best. I know that sounds corny, but this is a lot of fun. I have made some lifelong friends doing the Fringe. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made to make a Fringe show. Just have fun, do your best, and if you do that, everything else will probably turn out more or less okay. So don't let this stress you out because it's not worth stressing out over. And that would be my advice.
Yeah, have fun.
Excellent.
I don't feel that wise right now.
You are wise.
Yeah. I mean.
Go to office hours.
Yeah.
Go to office hours.
Go to office hours. Be nice to people, and really know your show. Know your like. If someone asks you what your show is, be able to tell them in a way that makes them excited about it. Just be like, oh, and it can be anything from, I had this weird idea, so I'm trying to do this thing. Or if maybe your show it's too many spoilers, you're like, I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but it's this vibe. Like, if you like these things, you like this thing.
Yeah.
Just know your show and know why you're passionate about it, because that will make other people passionate and excited. Because if you are this excited about your, don't be like, oh yeah, I'm just doing this thing, it's about be stoked about your show. Because also, if you're not stoked about your show, how are you going to get other people to be stoked about your show?
That's so right. Genius.
I mean, there's a reason why you've all chosen to do Fringe. There's a reason why you want to make this the venue or the experience of putting on this first piece of art for you. And whatever that is, make that happen. Make that your priority. Artists, we're also sensitive and fickle and so attached to what we want. We're so passionate about our little corner of the world, but bring all that to what this is. Bring this, make that what your Fringe is about. Whether it's fun or whether it's being community or whether it's trying to make money at art. Make whatever you want your Fringe to be. Yeah. Make it the best of that. So that's all I can say.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we cannot wait to hear your stories. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's so cool to come back every year and they're all buddies of mine now. I just see their shows every year. I mean, kind of. But but it's nice to come back and see you guys and touch base again with you and see how you guys progress. But it's also so fun each year. The new people that come in. We get so excited about the new visions and all the new stuff that's going on. So we are looking forward to you guys hopefully continuing that process with us. Yeah. Now I would like to open up for a few questions.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, we're doing questions
Yeah,
now.
we're gonna do
Great.
questions.
Okay, but I want to pitch. I'll do this at the end. Oh, I thought this was the end.
No, we've got 15 minutes.
2 more hours.
2 more hours.
Yes, sir.
I got 300 questions. I'll limit it to 3.
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you.
What are the preview dates that we should shoot for?
Oh, it's I should know this.
June
The
6th through
The
11th.
11th, yeah.
Oh, 6 through 11? Okay.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
How do I find tour venues now?
there should be a list of venues on the website.
Yeah.
At least from last year. Now there may be some new ones come up and some drop out, but generally they kind of stay the
I
same.
believe it's
Call
pretty
them up
updated
and
right
then
now.
Go contact them. and go
Yeah,
from
you
there.
can
Yeah,
message them
we're
through
actually-
the website.
Yeah, through the website. I do this producing class starting December. Following my class that goes from 1 to 4, I'll tour all of my venues. So I'll have 7 venues.
Your classes.
So it's up at theaterasylum.com, theater spelled ER.
Yeah, okay.
But the first one will be, the first one with a tour will be December 2nd.
But a lot of them, you can go right onto the website,
Yeah.
HollywoodFringe.org, and there's a tab right at the top of the page that says venues.
It's
you just
really
click on
easy.
it, and you get a full list of almost all the venues that will participate.
Yeah. The one-
And they have specifications about
Yeah.
what they have, what kind of theaters they have, what kind of spaces they have. You can contact them through that. I know
Yeah.
some aren't as active at this time of
Yeah.
year, but I'm sorry?
What page was that on?
HollywoodFringe.org.
Hollywood.
Yes.
On venue. And like Stacy say, most venues will start January for sure. Like
But
by
I know some
January.
people, like
no,
Studio
it's
Stage
this year
started
they're
looking.
starting now. I'm starting up in November.
Okay.
But I would contact them and they'll let you. They're very good. They'll say, "Get back to me in January,
Okay.
or let's set something up."
Right.
Yeah, Jen and Greg have started.
My last question, thank you for being patient with me. You talk about paying actors, absolutely. I was thinking of going through Actors Equity. What do you think?
Only if you have to.
Huh?
Only
Yeah.
if you have to.
Beware
Well,
the
I mean, I'm paying actors.
limitations.
In fact, some of the
That's great, and-
She wants to get equity, so.
And if that's super ambitious if you want to do that, but realize it's $15 a show, and then or $15 an hour, and then you're going to have to pay a rehearsal. I mean, as long as you know the contract that you're going to be developing.
Is it the Hollywood area contract that you?
No, it's not anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the equity rules have all changed. So if you are going to be casting, that's a whole different conversation that I probably won't get into now.
Okay, no, okay.
But yeah, really know, and that's something you also have to look out for. If you're going to be casting equity actors, make sure you know all the rules of the new equity contract, whether you're working
Yeah.
through a company, a company that has the waiver or not. You need to make sure you understand all the equity stuff that goes on.
It is a
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah.
And, yep, and it's costly if you don't.
It's very costly
Yeah.
if you have to go the
Yeah.
equity route. So.
And what's nice with Fringe, you can do a 50-seat contract if you find a venue small enough where you can hire equity actors
Yeah.
without all the
It's
hoops.
an equity waiver now. It's 50 instead of 99.
It's 50 now, and there's other limitations. And
Yeah,
things.
there's
All right, okay.
probably want to go on their website and
Yeah, check it out. It's not easy.
It's pretty extensive.
Yeah, it is.
So like how much more would it be to have a theater venue that's more than 50 with an equity?
Minimum wage cost.
You'd be probably talking about 2.5 times what you budgeted
at
for.
least.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
if you're gonna be paying a 5-person cast through the run of a show
Plus rehearsal.
plus
The
rehearsal,
rehearsal is what gets you.
equity, you're probably gonna be 4,000 for your cast.
And a musical can even be that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go with the benefits is what they do.
Sure.
Yeah, because you're paying into not just their minimum. but
Yeah, and listen,
Cool.
that makes if that's the way you, I totally respect that.
God
you know?
bless them.
You have to post a bond and hit it down.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the theaters will have insurance through. You know, it'll come with your rental contract, or it'll be a nominal fee, like $100 or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, let's get another question. Yes.
So I'm sort of testing the waters here to see if I want to do it this year or next year.
Good question.
And so I'm curious because at one point it came up, you know, if you get to March and you're feeling like this isn't going to work, you know, maybe you pull the plug. But I'm wondering what happens if you've already booked a venue? I mean, are there certain dates where you can cancel and you get reimbursed?
After
or-
April 1st is for a lot of people.
Yeah.
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 That's why I said March, because April 1st we have to register with the Fringe. And
Okay,
that's, yeah.
So venues will vary. You should definitely check.
Yeah, it
And
varies.
first-time producers read everything. That's a big note. If you're talking about like other big notes, read everything from your contracts to all the emails venues and Fringe send you. But in the contract, they should state most of the time if you give them a payment, they are keeping that payment. It's a deposit. Subsequent payments may be returned or all that, so be clear. But usually after April 1st, because then the venue, if you pull out after April 1st, they can't book
like,
someone
rebook somebody.
because that person won't be able to be in the Fringe guide, and it becomes harder
Now,
to find
to
that.
qualify that though, that March thing is not a hard, fast rule.
Yeah.
If I was in a show last year that we didn't even write until May 15th. So
And it
like,
was pretty successful.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's your comfort level.
yeah, it's whatever. Again, this is your Fringe. This is not our Fringe. This is your experience for whatever you want it to be. We're just kind of giving you some thoughts and guidelines of what we think might help you. There is no rule.
There's no
So
rule.
if you feel like you want to throw together a show in a month and that's the goal of the show, make that your goal.
Boom.
But yes,
If you register for the Fringe, you pay your registration fee, and you decide that you don't want to register, we don't refund the money, but we will roll it over for you to the next year.
All right, so
And another rule with that too, when you're thinking, the venues may fill up, they may disappear.
Yeah.
There is an urgency to get that, but there is no urgency to pay Fringe registration until you have your venue. So if there is a chance that you're wavering, just know that the key is getting your venue. You can sign up for Fringe, and as long as you pay by April 1st, you're going to get all the benefits as if you had paid in January.
And we allow people to register even after April 1st.
Oh,
April
yes.
1st is
Oh,
just
yeah.
a major deadline for the guide.
To be in the guide. And also, I tell you, especially from the class I'm learning, that I'm picking up more people coming in and that first year nervous and maybe taking a year off. But don't take a year off from Fringe, take a year off from doing your show. Come into Fringe. Go see, like Matthew's talked about, seeing shows is gold. Hang out, go up to Scott and pick his brain about marketing and plans
If you
for
can
next
catch him,
year. Go build that
I'm not doing Fringe
out
shows this year.
now and take advantage, and you'll be 10 times stronger the next time down.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Maybe.
Yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
plan.
Anyone
And
else?
Thanks for this. It's great.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Yes, up there.
So, question. So,
Yeah.
is there a risk if one of your goals is to get eyeballs in the seats?
Sure.
Is there a risk if you're thinking of doing crowdfunding, where if you're giving away, if you're pre-selling tickets more than a month or two in advance, that the people at the point say, yeah, well, you know, we'll put some money in the jar for this production, this project, but they don't come.
Right?
Sure.
And now you have empty seats in the house.
Sure.
Right. So, what was
so-
your experience with that? Because you had mentioned that you do that.
When I sell a ticket through the GoFundMe site, I don't give them a specific date. I allow them to later on give me the date that they want to choose. So it's not like I'm reserving a ticket for the June 6th.
Yeah.
I'm saying during the run, I've got a 7-show run. You can pick. You just need to let me know which day you want to come. And of those. Let's say I had 150 people buy tickets before the show. Maybe only 100 of them actually showed up. That's not a bad thing because I still oversold my houses.
Exactly.
So
Right, sure.
So if you're trying to actually reserve a physical seat, that might come to bite you. But if you're just making it open ended, where they can pay for the ticket and then show up, then you're still fine.
Right.
Yeah.
So like just give them like a date by. Let me know by this.
Yeah.
date, or
Yeah. So I cut my tickets off my whatever GoFundMe thing. I run it for 4 weeks, and I cut it off the day that tickets are available. And
May
so
1st.
I make May 1st. So I make that day the day that they can start contacting me about the shows they want to see. And again, you're not going to have everybody do that. Some people just want to be generous and give. But you're not hemming yourself into a box because of that.
Also, I agree 100% with that, but that reminded me of another thing you need to worry about when pre-selling tickets. If you have a small run, or you don't have you have a small show where you can only fit a limited number of seats in, if you pre-sell to a lot of people who aren't involved with Fringe, you're gonna just be getting the same people that have seen your shows before versus getting new audience members to see your show. And so you want to toe that balance. I'm lucky that I have a group of fans that love to come see my shows. I am not lucky in the fact that they will buy tickets as soon as my shows go on sale, and then new people who want to see my shows can't get tickets to my shows. And it's frustrating because I want to grow as an artist. I want new people to see my work. I want new people to get to know me as an artist, and sometimes that's difficult. My show last year, it was my first time doing a one-woman show. It was a 30-minute show that I did with one audience member at a time.
Wow.
I physically did it with 99 people over the course of June. I'd say 3/4 of them are people that have come to my shows before. So
It is.
it was like hard because I want new people to see my work and new people to see what I'm doing, especially if I'm putting so much effort into something. I'm not getting that much of a return on new audience.
Right. So it's almost like, I mean, you prefer an audience completely of strangers versus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally depends on the show. She's got one person in the audience. I have 100 people in the audience. So
Right.
my strategy is going to be totally different, as is yours. So, keep that in mind. Tailor your strategy to your show. Absolutely.
If you have a question still, would you raise your hand? If anybody still has a question? Okay, so we have 2 more questions and that's it. Okay, I'll start with you, sir.
I know the fee for registering to be in Fringe, and then you have a fee for actually renting the theater space that you are going to perform in. And then someone mentioned something about $300 a day for insurance.
It's not $300 a day. It's $300 for a run if you're not using a venue. That's an official venue that has their own insurance.
Okay.
Most
So
venues-
of the venues have.
Yes.
Most venues have
Yes,
their
sir.
own insurance. Because I work in non-traditional spaces, have to buy insurance for my venue. Like right now, I'm doing a show in Silver Lake in a basement of a house and in a backyard, and I have to get special insurance for that. Or sometimes I'm lucky and I do shows in bars, and I can piggyback on their event insurance that they use at a bar or something like that. But it just all depends. Like also, I have insurance for part of my apartment because it is a photo studio for using it for art purposes, but I have to get an extension on that if I want to do a show in my apartment for it being a performative space for that, but I don't have to pay as much as an event insurance. But it just depends on where you're doing it. Like I also have done shows in dance studios and I still have to buy event insurance because it's used their insurance doesn't cover doing an event in there.
Quick thing with equity, if you get an equity agreement of any sort, you are also going to be responsible for actors' accident insurance, or what they call volunteer insurance, that will cost you about $250 for the year. And the other insurance that you have to have for equity, but any show needs to have it, is liability insurance. And like Scott mentioned, that's around $100 to $150 the venues charge for you to be added onto their rider, which in some cases is good for the term of their insurance. So if you're going to extend your show in that space, the insurance would cover during the term. So it's a good question to be aware of with your venue about what insurance you're getting. But be aware with equity, that's another charge that you have for that kind of show.
Are there any other fees, costs, or anything that we have to be concerned about besides publicity?
Tech person.
Marketing.
You generally the venue, you'll have to have some sort of someone to run your show. Some venues will provide that for the set amount. Some you'll have to provide your own for obviously whatever you're going to be paying. So that's really all you'll have to have for your show.
That's it.
And some venues have like different costs, like if you want someone just to run lights and sound versus if you want someone to be there for rehearsal, if you have a more complex lighting and tech requirements.
Most of those things will be answered through the venue, so whenever you start looking at venues, just ask about their tech requirements.
Yeah, their policies.
All right, last question.
With respect to ticket pre-sales, if you go front or whatever,
Sure.
Are you using the official Fringe box office for that, or are you doing your own accounting and then somehow reconciling it?
I do my own. I have stuff. I love spreadsheets. So much.
Spreadsheets too.
And then we'll import them later on into the ticket sales for. But it's such a fractional. I think we sold 657 tickets last year to the show, and only about 75 of them came from my fundraiser.
We require you to sell 50% of your tickets.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
Through the site, but you can use any other platform you want to sell the other 50%.
Yeah.
Well, we have come to the end of our great panel.
Can I make a pitch for Monica?
Just hold your horses.
Dang it.
In
I
1
don't want to
second
miss
you
it. I
can.
think I missed my opportunity.
Okay, no, you haven't. If
All
it's
right,
for
good.
Monica.
It's for Monica, it's not for me.
Okay, I just want to thank you guys all for being here. It was really a pleasure having you guys all kind of exploring this new idea. And thank you to the panelists. You guys did great. If you would like to join me and Ellen and a couple of the other staff members, maybe some of you would like to just come have a drink after this long day of panels.
Great bar.
Just down the street at the Broadwater Plunge. If you wear your name tag, you will get $1 off your drinks.
And if you stick around till 8, you can see Race of Fantasticks and Sticks.
Great show to see.
The top of Fringe winner from last year.
Great show.
And then you can stick around till 11 and see Serial Killers.
Yeah.
I'm in both of them.
Yay! Just quickly before you go, I mentioned that show where the director playwright kept changing the script that ended up to be a 3-part play, or 3 separate plays called The Big Event. This playing here at the complex. It's Sunday afternoon, King Dick, and Meantime at Hojo's. All of them won various awards. Wonderful writing, wonderful acting. Monica is offering pay what you can if you mention that you came to the Fringe workshop today. So maybe after a few drinks, Race is going to be sold out. All right, maybe either one of them. There's some great shows, and this is
Choose
also,
mommy or daddy, which one you love
yeah,
better.
right. But this is also a way not to kind of push. I mean, yeah, to kind of push sewing shows. This is a way to start it. If you were to go see Scott's show and then come up and say, "Hey, Scott, I was at the thing," and he'll help you out.
I'll give you the biggest mouth hug ever.
Ever, and those are good mouth hugs. I will tell you. Gross. It is
And
kind of
with
gross.
that
They said
note,
it actually.
Yeah.
We will end this.
Yay!
Oh,
Thank you guys. Mouth hug.
Thank you.